This is really about mentorship and how mentorship has played a role in your life thus far. It could be somebody from your childhood. It could be somebody that you meet with. We want to know, are you mentoring now? It sounds like you are. So take us through your history of mentorship.
Yeah, I mean, mentorship goes all the way back, right? We don't learn how to do anything completely on our own. We have to look to other people to learn things. So outside of traditional education or my parents saying, do this because we told you so,
Right.
on my dad's side, my dad was an only child. And so we were spoiled, rotten grandchildren with my grandparents. But my grandpa Gunst was probably one of my earliest mentors because the way he taught us wasn't from that aspect of do this because I said so, which, every parent has to do
Right.
because there's no way to raise your children by, giving sage advice all day.
Tell us.
That's why grandparents are great. And I just remember my grandfather always being kind of that voice of reason and that person who would sit and listen to us and he would talk to us. I mean, he was just hands down the most wonderful man I've ever met in my life. And he showed mentorship in the aspect of he could show us when we were going down the wrong path, but then he always encouraged us to do other things. And, I remember him, he was a man of faith. And I remember him saying to me one point, God didn't put us on this earth to make our choices for us. He put us on this earth so that he could enjoy watching us learn, make mistakes, and then do better. And I've taken that with me all the way through.
Cool.
And he wasn't a man of faith that went to church every week. He wasn't a man of faith that did all the traditional, like the Christians that are, and I've gone to church off and on throughout the years, but he looked at faith more as his relationship and what he did. And he always led with that. Like he knew that there was a higher power and a higher purpose to why he was on earth. Of course, he was greatest generation and fought in World War II. So, that came along with that too. I think my second major family member who was a mentor to me, my Uncle Dave. And my Uncle Dave was the bachelor uncle for many years. I don't think he got married until maybe his early 40s and started a family then. He just was out living his life and enjoying his life. And I always thought that was really interesting and cool because everybody else in my family, my mom is one of 8 kids.
Wow.
Everybody in her family was getting married and having 3 kids. And then there was my Uncle Dave who wasn't doing that.
Right.
And I was like, that's actually really cool. Like he sails, he goes skiing and like St.
That is
Moritz.
really cool.
Like he does all these really cool things and he went and built a career. So of my mom's immediate family, he was the first one to go to college. And he became a CEO. And I remember when I was in college and again, wanted to be everything, wanted to try everything. And I sat down with him and I said, okay, so I'm going to need a career after this. And I'm thinking about getting an English creative writing degree. What do you think of that? And this is a guy who's got an MBA. He's running companies. And he said, I think that's brilliant. He said, because you have to know how to read. You have to be able to do critical thinking. You have to know how to speak in public. You have to be able to write well so that people understand you. And he said, I think that's brilliant. He said, because there you could get an MBA, you could go get a law degree, he's like, the only thing you can't do is become an engineer or a doctor. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be either of those things. Those were the 2 things I did not want to be growing up.
It's better for you to start checking the ones that you don't want to be off the box for sure.
But that's exactly what I thought when you said creative writing is, okay, that's communications. And if you're in sales, if you're a leader, which you are, you have to be able to communicate well.
Well, and then I think the importance of mentorship, and I think people get stuck in this mentorship idea of, Natalie, will you be my mentor? And then you're sitting there like, well, are we showing up with a priest and rings? Like, because am I marrying this person? Because I don't know what you want from me and I don't know what you need. And so I've had various mentors throughout my career to help me get to that next stage or that next level. But where I really started defining mentorship for myself was when I became CEO of ATC. So I had been an individual contributor going into what would be considered a VP level. And then within 10, 11 months, becoming an interim CEO. That's a really, really fast trajectory. I do not recommend it for the vast majority of human beings. It was very hard. And there were a lot of things that I had to learn and there were a lot of lessons that came and there were a lot of things that I failed at because I didn't know what I was doing, because I didn't have the knowledge or the years of experience in leadership before going into that role. Fortunately, I had an amazing board of directors at ATC that was led by Mark McLean, who's the CEO and founder of SailPoint, and Christina Silingardi, who was at the time the managing director for VCFO, who she's like, will forever be one of my favorite people because of the education that I got from her.
Yeah.
But it was looking at who do I know that can help me with this?
Right.
Because not everybody can help with everything.
Right.
And I had my board members were CEOs of tech companies and managing partners for law firms. So they were already busy people. So I had to look at the rest of who was within my network at ATC to say, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? When I took over, I went from being the person that brought the money in to now I have to go hire people to bring the money in.
Right.
And then I've got to do all these other things along with making sure that money's coming in. And I remember reaching out to Sam Woods. He's with the HT Group and just a wonderful, lovely human being. And I said, Sam, I need help, but not for me. I need help with my sales team because I have all these other things I need to do, and they need more attention than I have the time to give. Would you go in and mentor that team and help that team? And
That's smart.
so for me, it's like I need to know who can help me with the things that I need help with,
Right.
and who can help the people that I need to make sure that they're getting the help.
Well, what I love about that, though, also is there's something about character to be able to ask for that. And that's an important thing that I've learned myself, and also just want audiences to understand is like mentorship is like it's sometimes there's this fear of asking someone because they're too busy. But to be able to understand that most people want to help, they want to contribute, they want to give back of what they've learned, because as you know, that's the only way they contribute back to society. Not the only way, but that is a major way to contribute back to society. All that knowledge that you've built, what we're doing today, that is a form of mentorship and sharing this map of a story. So to be able to have the humility and modesty to say, hey, I need help, and it's okay to fail. I mean, every entrepreneur is going to fail. Life is failure. It is learning from your mistakes and moving forward. That is the ongoing education. So, but to be able to not have pride and be able to identify who can best help me in certain situations, I think that was pretty genius.
Yeah. And I mean, it also takes some pressure off from the people you are asking for help for. You know, it's, I
In
can't.
what way?
Well, so again, Mark McLean was our board chair for ATC. And I was a newbie to this type of role. So to say, Mark, you need to, on top of the fact that you've got a publicly traded company and you've got thousands of employees and you've got, shareholders and all of these things. Oh, and you're traveling globally. But because you're the board chair of this organization, you have to mentor Amber and you have to be the only one. So you have to walk her through how to do this and this and this and this and this. That's not fair to him, right? And so when we do get together and I come to him and I do the verbal diarrhea of here's everything I need help with, Mark.
Right.
You're in town for 2 days. Here's everything I need help with.
Yeah.
Like your brain can't process when somebody gives you all of that. So when I look at, I'm just going to talk about our executive committee. So when I look at Mark was very sage in helping me understand what I needed to do. And he was a great person to bounce ideas off from. I had Milam Foster Newby, who's the managing partner for Vincent and Elkins. And he was our general counsel at the time. And everything legal we were dealing with, I knew I could go to Milam, even if he wasn't the person that was going to answer. He could walk me through it. So we had employees that were transitioning in and out. We were dealing with various things. We had contract negotiations going on. And I knew I could go to him and I could get that advice that I needed to be able to really make good decisions. We had Christina, as I mentioned, she was our treasurer. And we walked through it. And I remember we were going through one process where we were putting the budget together for the next year. We were going through the process and she looked at me. She goes, I can see you're frustrated with me. And I'm like, I'm not frustrated with you. I'm frustrated with me because I should have gotten this already. And she she just sat there very calmly and she said, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and I've been a CPA, an accountant, and a CFO my entire career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm explaining things to you that I know and understand. You've never done any of this other than balancing your checkbook personally.
Right.
And I'm like, yes. And so it was that was mentorship in that aspect of, yes, I'm teaching you how to do these things and how to understand it, but I'm also telling you to give yourself forgiveness that you're not getting this immediately because you don't have the education in the background.
Right.
And that is so critical. So you can get mentorship anywhere from anyone at any time. You just have to be open to it. You also have to be willing to give back to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm mentoring someone, I have the expectation they're going to teach me something too.
Right.
Even if it's not something that's going to maybe help me along in business or help me along in this way or that, I still should learn something. I should get something about their experience or their understanding, because you can't just be a sponge one way in that relationship. Like, you have to give back to the mentors.
Yeah.
And that's how you have a successful relationship with the mentors, is you do that. I had one, in fact, I was joking because Bad Bunny is going to be the Super Bowl. And
no opinions.
And one of my mentees was like, I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but everybody's talking to, and they're like, you need to listen to it. It's amazing. It's so great. Like, they were giving me music stuff where it's like,
that's cool.
I'm Gen X, so if it's not 80s or 90s music.
Like, you said Bad. I was like, who? I gotta
you
go
gotta
look this up.
listen to it. It's great.
I gotta go look
it's
this up.
really great. But it's like,
so I love my little brother's 11 years younger than me. He keeps me young.
Yeah.
So you said one thing that when we were having coffee that I thought would be great to have on the show is, and it's along the same thread, which is when you need certain advice, you know exactly who you're going to, if you go raise money, for example, you know who to go to. Could you
absolutely.
Like now that you've seen the lay of the land, now that you went through that in that part of life, but as you grew, you're like, now I identify the specialties.
Yeah,
So
how did you become so good at narrowing
I look at everything as areas of discipline, right?
Okay.
And so which makes me sound like I'm super cerebral, and I'm kind of in the mix there. But like with the fundraising, I knew that I needed to go talk to lawyers that I knew and trusted. And so I had a lawyer that I knew and trusted. I said, okay, I'm setting up a partner agreement with my partner. Can you read through this? And that was Dan Jakonowitz. And he went through everything for me. And he was like, this is what I recommend. Here's what I think you need to do. When I was first getting ready to raise money, it was, okay, I'm going to build a deck. What should my deck look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen thousands of decks in my time, but what does my deck need to look like?
Right.
And I went to Autumn Manning, who at the time she was with Motley Fool Ventures, and she's raised so much money and had exits and everything else with her companies. And she went through that with me. When I was thinking about, okay, I need to go raise money and I need to talk to people about that, I went to Brett Hurt. I went to Worley. I went to Tyson Tuttle. I had conversations with all these people to say, what do I do? Because everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's like, oh, do a safe note like this, or do convertible debt
notes,
terms, or, do this. And it was like, I need to narrow that field down. I need to know who I'm going to talk to, because everybody has advice.
Yeah.
But very few people, I had to learn to become a mentor, right? You can't just become a mentor, because people that give advice are not mentors.
Right.
Mentors are people who sit down with you. They understand where you're coming from. They look over what you're looking at. They learn about you. They learn about how you learn and how you process information. It's not that they're doing this in this long cycle. It's just they naturally have that aspect, or they've learned how to do it. And so for me, I typically gravitate towards people where it's like, am I doing this right? Is this the way I should be doing this? And you can't take advice from everybody. That's the key. Because if you take advice from everybody, you're not going to get anything done.
Right.
You're now just trying to please a bunch of monkeys in the zoo.
Well, and that goes just come off mentorship for a second, but that goes like when you're fundraising and you're talking to all these investors and everybody's like, we got to do it this way. You got to do this way. Your technique's this. Everybody's got something to say, but you've got to be very selective. And one thing that you mentioned that over coffee was like, for example, the different strengths that everyone has, but even men and women have different strengths. So you said, if I'm going to go ask for a raise, I'm going to go ask a guy because they're really good at asking for, so you want to share that?
My number one friend I actually have that conversation with is my friend John Armstrong, who he'll always be a friend to me because he has provided me such sage advice over the years. And it's not that women can't negotiate for themselves. It's not that they do that. It's just we're taken in different rooms, I'm guessing, and taught different things, right? So, so for women, it's be pleasing. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do this. And for men, it's like, here's how you get this and here's how you get this. And where I'm going with this is I worked for a trash and recycling company, billion-dollar company years ago. And my coworker, Jeff, and I both had ride-alongs with the same gentleman who I'm not going to say his name because he has since fixed his ways. And I don't think he really realized it. But the day that we went on a ride along, we were both big Red Wings fans. So we talked about the Red Wings. We talked about vacations we were planning to take. We talked about yard work that needed to be done because it was almost spring. We talked about
real life,
conversational things. I was number 3 in the entire company for account retention of a billion-dollar company.
Wow.
Like number 3, I had an 80 to 90% retention rate on my commercial customers, which is very hard in that industry. I had a 20% value increase on my account value over multiple years, and had a really lovely conversation, lovely day with this guy. We had a great lunch. We spent a lot of fun. We did a lot of laughing. The next day, he rode around with Jeff. And when Jeff came back after that day of riding around with this man, I said, I'm like, how was your day? What'd you guys do? What'd you talk about? He said, oh, well, he was talking to me about the management program that the company had. And he was giving me advice on my 401k and the importance of saving for it. And I'm like, okay, Jeff's like number 11 in the country for sales. I'm number 3.
Right. Why were the conversations different?
And here's what I did. And this is where I love my dad, because my dad has given me this gumption of not confronting people so much, but making myself
advocating
heard.
for yourself.
And this man was in the conference room. And I walked in there, knocked on the door. I'm like, hey, how are you? He's like, oh, great. I had so much fun with you. I so enjoyed our day together. We definitely have to plan another one of those. And I said, yes, I would like to plan another one of those. But what I'd like to know is, why did you talk to Jeff about these things, but you never brought them up to me when I'm outpacing what he's doing? And again, this is nothing against Jeff. Jeff's a wonderful person, worked very hard. It's also hard to be number 11 in sales for a billion-dollar company. And he looked at me, and this is why I have respect for this man. And he said, it never occurred to me to have those conversations with you. He said, but what does that say about me? And I said, well, what it says now is now you know. I said, and the next time we have time together, I want us to have that conversation. He said, well, do you have time right now? Because I want to have the conversation with you now.
Nice.
And years later, I went back and worked for the company again for a short stint. And we all went to Scottsdale, Arizona, where the company is headquartered. And he stood up and he's in front of all these salespeople and said, oh, and Amber Gunst is here. And the lesson I learned from Amber years ago was this. And that to me says that this was somebody who maybe didn't realize or didn't know.
Yeah.
But it's, there's so many ways that you can advocate for yourself. The number one thing you need to do, though, is you need to speak up.
Yeah.
You can't just sit and worry about it. We did this program. Women are I want to say Austin Women in Technology. That's actually a group in town. We did a Women in Tech program through ATC that I spearheaded for 5 years. And every January, we did a program called Negotiating Your Salary, Your Promotion, and Your Raise.
Got it.
And we would tell women, you definitely want to speak with your female mentors, talk to them about,
how they did it,
what they're doing. But you need to practice, and you need to practice with a man. And the reason you need to practice with a man is majority of the time you're asking a man for this. And men ask for money, and they ask for promotions, and they ask for all of this stuff in a way that's different than women do. And one of the young women who did this program with us, I'm not going to say the name of her company or her name or anything, but she showed up, did the work, came back the next year, and she said, well, it didn't exactly work. And we said, okay, did you go through the whole process? Did you practice with a man? And she said, no, that's the one part I missed.
Okay.
I said, okay. Like, and there were so many other things
Right.
that happened when she went to go ask for this that,
Right.
you know, we told her, we're like, you should maybe
Find a
look for
different
another job.
Yeah.
And, you know, and your boss is not really advocating for
Right.
you and everything. And it was just, you know, don't be afraid to ask the other gender for
Right.
advice, right?
Well, I thought that was such a wonderful insight. Whenever you and I were talking, I thought that needs to be shared, because I think it's important to have the conversation. A lot of times, as you pointed out, it's not misintention or anything like that. It's just it doesn't come up. It's not a practice. So but it's a great observation, great insight into, if I want this, I need to seek from people that are that do it often. And that's all mentorship is. It's like, who has done this before? And that concludes our episode
Yeah,
2.
part 2. I love that. That's perfect.
So-
Because I have a bunch of spitfire questions, because now we're going into what the sage advice that you would give people, Gen Z specifically, but really anybody can take away from what you have to say. And that is, how did you manage all the moments of failure? And how did you navigate that, what sounds like very gracefully? I'd love
Not
to
always gracefully. No. I mean, I
Yeah,
think anybody
be a sore loser
thanks for
sometimes.
setting her up. She's like, well, who said that?
not
I didn't
always
say that.
gracefully. I mean, when you're learning in a high pressure situation, there's going to be moments where you fail in how you communicate with people. And
Sure.
I definitely did. I made so many mistakes. I could, we could talk for 8 hours about
The mistakes.
just the mistakes in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
I think that when you look at how do we function together, and how do we communicate with each other, and how do you show vulnerability? So one of my former bosses, I was actually texting with him this weekend, Aaron Botana. I worked with him at K-Force, and I think the world of Aaron. I think he's a wonderful person. The thing that I appreciated the most was Aaron's ability to be vulnerable, to not show angry, negative emotion, but to show emotion in a very positive way, to show that he was a human being, that
I was going to
he
say connection.
was struggling.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it didn't, sometimes people were like, yeah, we don't care.
Right.
I was never that way because, growing up, I grew up in the Gen X. So it's like my dad was not really warm, fuzzy guy.
Right. He was also a Vietnam vet.
So yeah, there's that. But there's also the fact that when he did show us emotion, and it was emotion from a non-judgmental, non-angry, non-frustrated way, those are the moments that you felt the most connected. And so looking at Aaron, seeing how he could vulnerably say, I made a mistake. I did this thing wrong. I'm struggling. I'm trying to learn. Like, I would try to go into that particular space. And it's really hard because, again, I was one of those feral latchkey kids where, both of my parents had to work. And so I want to do everything myself, and I want to all to be perfect the first time. And so that's the angry, nasty little voice in my head is, you're not perfect and you made a mistake and how dare you? And so I have to fight that every single day. And that's where mentorship helps me, is to go, hey, it's okay. Like what Christina does, it's like it happens.
I think the vulnerability piece is such a, as you touch on that, so important for 2 reasons. One, it has that human connection, and then all of a sudden you're in it's a different relationship with an individual, in that I'm human, I'm not above anybody else, and I make mistakes just like everybody else, but we're all in this together doing our best.
Yeah.
And so that's one point. The second point is, because running a company, the same thing. I try to use that empathy and always the vulnerability with everybody works with me, just so that we're a team, and they've got to feel
It
that
helps
way.
with company culture.